sometimes we're in the rush to see a movie in the theaters. We're like, fuck that shit. We got to be there stat. Then like a week later we watch it. and then talk about it. But we were kind of not in the rush to see this movie. And before I say which movie, although you probably guessed that by the title somewhere.
Yep.
Everybody in the world went and saw this movie. It's literally like $1 billion maker by now. And we just kind of held back. Yep. And we said, nope, gonna avoid the fuck out of that. Now, I bet you're wondering why. And I don't know about you, but my reason was there was a lot of baggage on this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the type of movie that should have that kind of baggage.
Yeah.
It's like, are we serious? Are we putting that much, investing that much into this one movie? Are we making it about race?
Yeah.
Are we making if you don't like it, you're a racist. If you do like it, you're a cuck. All kinds of accusations left and right. There was no winning with this fucking movie. So I just wanted to see the movie without any baggage. And that time finally came. It was like, fuck it. Now's the time. I don't feel any... It's gone. It's faded. People stop blabbering endlessly about it.
Kind of.
Kind of. Enough, I should say.
Yeah.
So that was my reasoning. What was your reasoning? The same or different?
To be honest, also there's always. It's not that I like going against the grain, but there's always like a thing where everybody's sucking something's weenie, and it gets to a point where you're like, is it really gonna be that good? I'm always kind of like, I can wait, because if I have a differing opinion, it's just a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, I don't have any problem voicing it. I'm not saying you do, but I don't have any problem voicing my opinion. I just didn't want that fucking flack. So it's like, fuck that shit.
That's the thing. Like if I weren't to like it or something, and then everybody's gonna be like, oh, you just hate black people or whatever. Like, nah, I just want to watch a movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In fact, when we talked about when we were gonna go see this last month, we were just recalling when we went to go see Blade, which we love fucking Blade.
Yeah.
And we were like, remember when everybody in line was like all different colors and nobody gave a fuck? They were just there because Blade was fucking cool.
And it was before they had the Marvel bumper where just anything they'll release, people go see it. It was back when it was like a thing.
Yeah.
A big deal, I should say.
Yeah. And
But no one made it a big deal. It was just a cool ass movie people want to see.
Now, like you, although this didn't affect me wanting to go see the movie, I was kind of ticked off that everybody was like, this is the first black superhero. And yes, in terms of comics, he is the first black superhero, unless you count Whitewash, which, by the way, was also a Marvel Comics hero and was pretty fucking racist and predates Black Panther. But nobody counts him because he was pretty fucking racist. But anyway, technically he was. But then everybody like just ran with that. Like, there's never been one before. Yeah. And I was like, dude, there's been a lot of them, cinematically speaking. They took it from a fact to like it's never happened before. And it's bothered the fuck out of me.
Especially within the MCU alone, there's been other heroes.
Yeah.
Like Falcon and Luke Cage. Falcon does suck though.
He sucks.
But still.
Yeah, but we recognize why. It just got out of hand. And so now, it's like we said, it calmed down and we decided, fuck it, let's go watch it and see what's up. And I'm actually pretty interested to see what you think. The Guardian won't shut up about this. He's watched it like 10 million times. And I'm interested to see.
He does love BBCs.
He has expressed a distinct love for BBCs. So that might explain it.
Uh-huh.
But we don't love the long schlong. So we didn't have that predilection. But anyway, I'm interested, off the cuff, what is your overall impression of this movie?
I actually did end up liking it. So I would say my worries were kind of foolish.
Okay.
I don't think it's like freaking the best thing ever, but I did like it quite a bit.
Okay. And I thought it was fucking dull. I thought it was super boring.
I could totally see your point.
Yeah.
I will be honest with you.
I thought it was super, super boring. And just plain scattershot, dull, not well paced. It only got good to me once Killmonger got to Wakanda.
Yes, and that's where I said. That's why I said I kind of agree with you.
Yeah,
because for a while it's pretty like, oh man, this is a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have a cohesive structure up to that point. Even though it does, logically you understand what the structure is. You're like, man, just get over this. Just
Yeah.
move on. We don't. I don't want to see this. I don't need to see this. Honestly, I thought a lot of stuff was cheesy as fuck.
There's a lot of cheese.
And whatever. I was just like, man, hurry up. And I wasn't seeing what everybody was seeing. I was like, where's the cool? I thought this was supposed to be cool. It wasn't cool like Blade was cool, so there's that to consider. But I know this is its own distinct property, and I'm familiar enough with Black Panther to understand that, obviously. But even on that level, I was like, man, Black Panther was way cooler in Civil War in those few scenes than this entire movie. But once Killmonger actually came to the forefront, it became a little bit more interesting. The pace picked up a little, and the structure seemed a little bit more defined. The themes came to the forefront, which I thought the themes were really like both the most important thing in the movie and also shockingly took a back seat, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing considering all the fucking hubbub that came around the movie, the racial hubbub. So I'm kind of at odds with that. I do like the idea of the responsibility of being able to help someone but deciding not to. That's a cool concept, and it definitely gave motive to Killmonger, which is why the movie became interesting at that point. And I really thought it was a mistake that they barely dabbled in him up to that point. Don't get me wrong, Claw. We'll get to that.
Yeah, because
don't get me wrong.
I have a lot to say about that.
Claw was fine. It was just, again, he was stuck in the middle of this kind of like drudge of stuff that was not interesting to me. But anyway, we'll get into the details of that. So yeah, my overall impression is kind of fucking laggy and dull to begin with. Once Killmonger comes in, picks up a little. By the end, especially the end sequences, and this makes me sound like I'm just about the action. I'm not. It's just by that point I was like craving some good action.
Yeah.
And that only came for me at the ass end of the movie. But we'll get into the finer details of that. So let's talk about the characters and actors portraying them, who hit the tone for you and who didn't, who missed the mark, etc.
I would say that Killmonger was really good, except for the fact that he's like barely in it. Mm-hmm. That being said, he was the thing that made me interested, like you said. So I would say that he was really good ultimately, despite the fact that he's in it for like a second. Other than that, I mean, Black Panther's Black Panther, so that's cool.
That's a thing.
There really isn't anybody who I was like, oh, that person's really cool. There was people who I thought were gonna suck, like his sister, that I ended up being like, all right, she's fine. But no one who was like super badass or anything, I would say.
His sister, Black Panther's sister, to me was like Ned Leeds in Spider-Man: Homecoming was to you.
Really?
I found her super fucking annoying and cringy as fuck.
I thought she was gonna be way worse.
And why the fuck is she behaving like that? I don't understand why she's behaving like an American. I don't understand. They're supposed to be Wakandan and they're so isolated. And I get it, she's a tech head, but the fuck is that shit? And seriously, what are those?
That was lame. Yeah, that was lame.
And the jokes, the banter, not only between her, but every joke in the... I'm kind of jumping ahead here with this part, but hers are the ones that made me cringe the most. But all the jokey stuff in this felt completely fucking flat for me and sour and out of place. Kind of like the Doctor Strange jokes, but worse. Because I was like, this has no place in this narrative.
Yeah, that is true.
It fucking sucked.
Most of it was like, why is this even there?
At least the fat monk made me laugh in Doctor Strange because he sucks. This fucking shit, none of the jokes made me laugh. They made me go, fuck, that sucks my dong off. Anyway, but she was the main perpetrator for me. I was like, fucking shit, man, shut the hell up.
I was expecting I think this is the reason why I didn't hate her, was because everybody's been sucking her weenie off. And from what little I had seen, I was like, oh man, I'm going to hate this character. Just because it seems like one of those characters that I wouldn't like. So when I saw it, and I was like, I guess I was expecting way worse. So that's why I was kind of like, okay, she's fine.
Now, I will say that I didn't read any previews or see any... I'm sorry, any reviews or see any reviews. The only thing I knew was the big racial stir-up that it caused. That's all I knew. So I went in with zero expectations for anyone, except for, I guess, Chadwick Boseman.
I would totally see why you would dislike her.
And I was just like, fuck, man. She stinks. Again, I don't hate her. Yeah. The character stinks.
It definitely doesn't fit into the movie at all.
I will say that to me, the coolest character was, what's her name? Otuye, his guard, his main guard.
She was pretty.
She
cool.
was the only character in this whole movie that I was like, she's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
You know, no other character in this movie made me go, that's a badass. Not even Killmonger. I thought he was a good villain and he had a good motive, but I never at any point was I like, that's a fucking badass bad guy. Never.
He doesn't reach the point of badass, but I found him interesting enough. Again, despite the fact that he's in it for like a millisecond, and they don't really dig into him at all, so that I was like, okay, he could have been really cool if he was in it longer. And yeah, she was actually kind of cool. I'll agree with you on that.
She was pretty badass. You know, Lupita Nyong'o as his love interest was fine too. She just didn't get enough to do.
Yeah. What's his name in the comics? Manape.
Yeah,
he was actually kind of cool, but again, he doesn't really get much to do.
Baku.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he was cool too. Yeah, there was like a lot of moments where I was like, these characters could be cool. The actors portraying them certainly can be cool or have proven to be cool. It's just they never felt fleshed out to me enough. And that's why I think Otuya stuck out in the sense that really she didn't need to be fleshed out. She did what she was supposed to do, and that's that. And in that sense, she was the coolest. But the characters that needed to be fleshed out didn't get that treatment, and if they did, it just didn't resonate with me.
I felt like
not even Black Panther. In fact, Black Panther, I was like, they're wasting too much time on Black Panther. It was cool to see the belief system, the mystic side of it, but they lingered way too much on it. A better movie would have been if they focused on Killmonger. But this has been a problem with Marvel movies forever. Whether they're good or not so good, they need to focus on the bad guy a lot more.
That's a big thing. This movie also had, I don't know if you heard that, but had the buzz of having the first good Marvel villain or great Marvel villain.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that at all.
I completely disagree with that. He could have been really good.
Yes.
They just don't do anything with him.
It's a case of his motive is great.
Yeah.
And it provides a great field for him and Black Panther to play off of each other because they're both in the wrong and to some degree they're both in the right. None of them are 100% right. Yeah. Black Panther, however, realizes it, whereas Killmonger is so stuck on a grudge that he bends his purpose in the end. And that's good. That's good. And in that sense, they're right because they actually did something with the villain versus just a straightforward motivation. Yeah, it was more of a gray moral area, which is great.
Yeah.
But you're right. He doesn't get enough screen time to make it substantial and impactful. The mere fact that there's slavery and all that history behind it doesn't make it impactful. That's a horrible past. And that's why that motive works. But we need more of the character to make the character work with the motive completely. Not to say that he sucks, of course. So, I get you completely.
And especially considering the fact that he's not even like the main villain for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he is in the background.
Yeah.
But we get Claw and stuff for a while, which is kind of not very interesting. So much so that you're like, wait, who was Andy Serkis in this at the end?
Yeah, I was like, huh? Who was he? Some guy?
So yeah, but once Killmonger actually comes in, you're like, okay, he's interesting enough to get me along. But people comparing him to like the Joker and shit, like, no way. Close. No way.
Not even close. Great motive and not enough screen time. Which is weird because someone like Baron Zemo barely had screen time. But it was enough for that particular motive.
Yeah.
This motive is so important that they should have dedicated more screen time to it. That's just the plain and simple of it. I wanted more Killmonger.
Yeah.
I wanted a story where Black Panther kind of took a back seat. Even though we don't know much about
it. There's a point in the movie where you're like, man, they're really digging into this Black Panther shit, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And it's not very interesting.
Yeah.
Until like about halfway when Killmonger comes in. And then even then, once I was actually getting... I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't tired, so it wasn't that. I'm not going to lie to you. About the first half of this movie, I was kind of nodding off. And it wasn't because I was sleepy. I was just like, man, this is not very interesting.
Yeah. I wasn't nodding off, but I get you. I was like, this is... And it takes a lot for me to just get distracted by something else in the movie.
And it was that. Like, it's not that I was falling asleep. It was just one of those where you're seeing something, But you're like, ooh.
It was so, what was going on was so uninteresting that I was focusing on details. And that's a bad place to be if you're watching a movie. When you start focusing on details and then start tearing the movie down because of the details, that's a bad place to be. A movie's supposed to be good enough to distract you from its flaws and whatever. It's supposed to create an experience. This did not do that like you for me until a certain point. And even then, it wasn't that strong.
There was a certain point where actually it was like, okay, I'm interested now, and I can actually kind of enjoy the movie. But for the first bit, I was like, ooh, this is the thing.
And it almost seemed to me like they didn't know what the movie was.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is it an espionage thriller all of a sudden? Which, by the way, that also sucked. You know, that whole Q vibe and the here's your gadgets.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit with his character. And I realize that character has that in his background. It's just the way it was presented. It didn't feel like they had a singular vision for the character. It felt all over the place. So that didn't gel for me either. But anyway.
Also for me, because it is part of the characters, for me, the Bilbo Baggins' character kind of felt just thrown in there.
Oh, fuck. He was awful, man.
Like, he was just thrown in there for no damn reason.
Like, and he had zero charisma. Zero... he didn't click with any of the characters.
Yeah, they basically find a way for him to end up in Wakanda, a cheap way for him to end up in Wakanda, and then does nothing for the rest of the movie till the end.
Yeah.
He was way better in Civil War, where he actually had shit to do, and you kind of didn't know what the hell was up with him. So yeah, like throughout the whole movie, I was like, man, this character's not good.
Yeah, he was a complete fucking dud. But yeah, there were standouts. You know, the heads of the tribes, at least the ones that got lines, were cool. Interesting. I can't really say I like Chadwick Boseman in this particular movie because, like I said, Black Panther wasn't that interesting.
Yeah,
but
he wasn't bad. It's just he wasn't very interesting.
But yeah, there's nobody that stood out for me.
Yeah,
you know, besides Killmonger, and we've already discussed why and the positives and negatives of that. So that's kind of like and Martin Freeman, total fucking flatline. And I don't even know what to think of Andy Serkis as Claw. At points, I was like, he's kind of cool. Then at other points, I was like, man, he's really chewing the scenery up.
Yeah, he is.
And in a cringe manner, too. Yep. So I didn't know what to think of that. And that entire stuff just fell flat for me. But anyway, let's move on to the effects in this movie. I gotta say it before you say it. I don't know, because I don't know if you'll agree with me. I thought the effects sucked in this movie. I thought they were horribly rendered. They look fake as fuck throughout.
I will somewhat agree with you. It was never cool.
Never.
But it was sometimes better than others. The first time I noticed something being completely rotten and it bothered me legitly.
Was it the rhino?
No, surprisingly it wasn't. It was early on when they're having the ceremony.
Oh yeah.
And all of the crowds on the mountains were like, that shit was like straight out of episode 1.
Yep.
It was like, oh my god, that looks so fake.
The fucking green screen in this is fucking basement level bad. I mean, I know that sounds exaggerated, but considering the amount of money that went into this movie, what we've seen before from Marvel, I was like, how does this look like this? This looks horrible. I thought it looked bad, man. The green screen was terrible during that sequence. And facing the mountain and facing the fighters.
It never gets better. You see that scene several other times in the movie, and it like, go back and see episode 1 with all the crowds and the consoles. It's like that. In the console, it's like that, only on a mountain.
Yep.
And since it's much closer, it looks super fake.
Yep.
And this is where I reached my first point of like trying to pull shit apart. While I was seeing these fake ass people go like this and shit on the mountain, I was like, how did they even get there? There's no way to get there. And that's not good. I wasn't immersed. I was literally just thinking, how did someone even get to these platforms?
And we are very forgiving of effects because if you're invested in the movie, you don't care if the effects are good or bad. You make up for them, and the movie makes up for them because you're interested in certain other aspects. A good example, we've mentioned Blade. Blade 1 does not have great effects. But you know what? It's so cool, and you're so invested in the characters, and you're just so along for the ride that you don't give a shit that La Magra looks like complete ass. This, I was like you, I was like, wow, how does this fucking happen? And you know what did it for me first? The Wakandan ship.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that is some fucking like 19. No. I'm sorry, early 2000s UFO documentary shit.
I did call this. Remember when the second trailer came out, and I was like, I don't know about that city though, because I thought it looked fake as shit in the trailer. And you're like, well, it might look better in the movie. Apparently not.
And that was sadly one of the better effects.
Yeah, it was actually.
I mean, fuck. When they're in the interior, where all the tech shit is and the final fight takes place. That looks
fake as shit.
That looks horrible. Yeah. The two, the two Wakandan kings, the two Black Panthers, if you will, T'Challa and Killmonger fighting. I was like, damn, man. This is some Neo fighting Agent Smith shit right here. Fucking CGI ass dudes. And not in a good looking way. I was like, damn, this licks. Because I guess the light off black doesn't reflect well. It just looks bad.
Yeah.
And then the rhinos. Fuck those rhinos, man. Fuck those rhinos up. They're stupid. At the moment they came out in the first one, I was like, these motherfuckers are going to come back. Sure enough, during the battle that actually was cool, I was like, oh no, that fucking horn. First of all, how's the fucking horn blow that loud if it's this tiny? Second of all, the fuck's with this rhino, man? It licks.
That's true.
I hated those rhinos. A lot of the effects are fucking horrid. For again, compared,
the price,
compared to the other product from Marvel and how much they sunk into this movie, I was like, how is any of this cool looking? It's not.
I'll agree with you mostly. I don't think it was as bad at certain times, but there is definitely parts where it's bad.
You know what other effect fucking sucked my ding dong off? The little Dick Tracy fucking projection shit.
I wasn't even gonna mention that.
Damn, that shit look awful.
That was some of the tech in this is just corny, like legitimately just corny.
It never is the movie believable enough or enjoyable enough for me that I suspend my disbelief to buy into the tech. It's kind of like the Roger Moore Bond movies, coincidentally enough, where you're like, unless you're a fan of it, if you're a fan of them, then I guess you accept it. But me, I was like, come on, man, that fucking bullshit. That shit cannot exist. It licks. And the silly part is we watch other movies that there's infinitely tons weirder and stupider stuff, but they invest you in it enough for you to buy into it. And this one, I was like, man, that tech though.
There's actually a comparison I can make to another movie. There's a bit early on where they're planning some escape with some chick or some shit. It doesn't matter because at that point you're like half asleep. But he's like planning out and he's picking up these. It's like this like hologram thing. He's picking up little things and doing little things with like I don't even know what it is. It's like this thing that's rendering shit in like 3D. Something very similar to that was in Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. Except in Man of Steel, you totally believed it because they built everything around. Like, everything worked that way in Krypton. And this is just like, that's the only time you see that kind of tech.
Check out our new cool tech.
That's it. You only see it that one time. You're like, why would they even need that?
And to underline that point, even his sister, who is the tech genius in this, even she shows how disposable this jazzy new tech is. Because the moment you're like, oh, that's cool, she's like, check out my new tech that I'm giving you. Fuck that old shit. And that's the mentality when it comes to the tech effects in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just, fuck it. It's cool for now, but later we're just going to throw it out the window and fuck it. And I was like, so you could never get, like the stupid gadgets they give Bond. At least you get them and then you last with them the whole movie. The only thing we really got that with was his suit.
Yeah.
And
And they never even make they make this whole point that leads up to a joke about how sneaky his sneakers are.
Which, by the way, later when he's walking up a ramp,
it's like, but it's not like there's never a payoff to that. There's never like a scene where he has to sneak around. It's just, it was there for that joke.
I agree. So yeah, the effects for me, I just can't believe they were this bad. Again, compared to some lower budget movies and stuff like that, obviously they're better than that. But in comparison to the rest of the product, it's like, what the fuck? This sucks my ding.
I was not impressed with any of the effects. I also want, because it does touch with the characters and the effects. I also want to say that this movie does the thing where, and again, I've saw people saying that this movie did it right finally, but it does that thing where it's just the villain is just the same as your hero, only with a different color.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of like a standard of superhero movies, especially in the Marvel
Yeah,
universe.
but for some reason it really stands out in this one. Like,
yeah, it stands out because by that point you're just noticing everything.
Yeah, it's worked before. Like, sadly, even freaking was Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man was better than when it comes to, at least he looked different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But we've seen, yeah, it's a standard. And people were saying that this one was the first movie to do it right. It's like, it was so noticeable in this one where it's just like, this is lazy.
Yeah.
It's literally just, it's the same dude. And it's not even cool enough to make it be like, oh, okay, there's an actual threat. It's just like, no, we know who's going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I mean, again, with these movies, you kind of know the good guy's going to win. But there was such a level of predictability by that point that I was like, okay. And then on top of that fight looked horribly fake.
So and again, it could have been cool with having the little train thing pass by and them just having little dialogue moments. Sadly, it's kind of like the scene in freaking episode 1. There's a lot of episode 1 comparisons I'm making here, but where the lasers come in and they're having that little the only cool scene in that movie, kind of like that. Only once they start fighting, you're like, woo.
Yeah.
It's not good looking.
And speaking of fighting, let's move on to the action in this movie, which just gonna get it off right here. Thought fucking blue. I thought it was like dark. I'm sorry. Almost insulted a good movie. I thought it was like Batman Begins style fighting for most of the movie, where it was like just a confusing mass of fists and punches that is supposed to look cool, but really doesn't. And the only time I felt any of the action sequences really, really worked were with Tuya's character, because she got to do it on her own most of the time and looked distinct and unique on her own. And the big tribal war at the end was pretty fucking cool.
That was actually really cool.
Except for the rhino part. I fucking licked.
But yeah, it was actually cool to see all, because mostly, it's funny too, because that last scene is cool because it's two tribes going up against each other, and there's no Black Panther in sight, so you don't get the confusing ass weird up close battles that kind of lick weenies.
They were never as anything remotely. Not even when it's not that you can't tell what's going on. It's just that it's like, it's so frantic and weirdly framed, and you're just kind of like, you never get a chance to go, that looks cool.
Yeah.
That looks like it hurts.
It's not like in Civil War where you get to see him fight and it looks like he has his own style. And this, it's just like, oh, I guess his style is confusion now.
Yeah. So and you know that Civil War scene where he's jumping from vehicle to vehicle, and that looked cool. Let's do that again. Only it looks not even close to that.
And cool. It's like a freaking 20-minute scene that goes on way too long.
And and that was like, that would completely ruin that. So yeah, that was the action for me. I guess for you too.
Yeah. Again, the first half of this movie was I don't want to say it was boring, but I was falling asleep. So that should be.
Yeah, it was definitely dull. It was.
But I did like the second half, and that is when you get the cooler action scenes, despite the fact that train scene kind of sucked weenies, which is why I don't want to shit on it completely, but I will. So yeah, sucks. So there we go. Action stinks.
Now let's talk about the score. I will give it props because this is the first Marvel score that stands alone on its own. It doesn't feel generic. It doesn't feel like they are just repeating filler tunes in the background that you'll forget the moment you leave the theater. That's kind of rare in the MCU because you usually get a bunch of garbage. I shouldn't say garbage. You usually get stuff that's
serviceable,
and adequate, and then you forget it. This one stands out because it doesn't sound like all the other soundtracks. So there's that to consider. I do like some of the more tribal accents in it. That would have been cool, but you know what? The visuals ruined that. Because it's too tech savvy for it to be cool for me. I like that, kind of ancient civilization type of feel to movies. So the tech stuff kind of fucking rubbed me the wrong way in that sense. I realize it's an important part of the character. But the way it was presented on top of the way, it just didn't gel.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like it belongs together.
Yeah, and then so the soundtrack, in conjunction with that, doesn't feel like it sounds well together either. But there was really cool moments in it. I like some of the more soundtrack oriented selections too. But I can't say I love the soundtrack / score.
Yeah. It was one of the better ones, I'll say. There is moments where it just does go into like generic MCU stuff, but they do seem kind of like lessened. Like they do try to mix it in with the tribal stuff and the more hip hoppy stuff. So at least it's interesting soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That weird disconnect between the tech and the tribal shit just doesn't work most of the time.
And it affects everything else, the texture, everything.
My favorite stuff was the more tribal-y stuff. Like
yeah,
I actually, despite the fact that the crowd looked like ass, I actually liked the little ceremony they had and all that. Because that was the first time you see freaking Killmonger be cool, basically. So, but yeah, that tech stuff really ruined it, and it kind of goes along with the music. So I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Now the final thing are the overall visuals and aesthetics of this movie. And that kind of touches in, since it's so effects heavy, that touches in with the effects, in the sense that I never felt that these people were actually in these places.
Yeah.
Ever. I was like, ooh, this looks good. And then we've seen plenty of movies where Africa's natural beauty is displayed. And I never got that feeling from this movie. Even Congo did that shit better. Yeah. And Congo licks!
It's not good.
I was like, man, this Africa looks lame, So there was that.
This Africa looks like South Korea.
Yeah,
because it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess you'll share the same thought, maybe a little different.
Again, I actually kind of liked some of the tribal shit. I'll even go as far as...
I liked Manape's Lair.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I actually liked Manape's Lair. I thought the freaking Panther cave was corny as all hell.
That didn't look good in quote, real life.
Like, Manape's Lair looked cool. It was a weird-ass ape, and it was cool looking. But then you see Panthers, and you're like, that's straight out of freaking Bond, only lame.
You know what I hated? This is kind of regressing a little on what we talked about, but I was like, man, Manape's pretty fucking badass. I wish the movie would have been more about him. And then he makes a joke, and I was like, oh, man.
Oh, that's another thing.
That fucking sucked.
Look.
P.S. They were fishing, so apparently they weren't vegans. But anyway,
I was complaining. I complained about how Thor Ragnarok wouldn't let something be serious, and I stand by that complaint. But this movie takes that and freaking shits on that hardcore. Stuff will start being a little bit cool, a little bit serious, and then there's a joke. And you're like, oh man. And it's always corny, like you said.
See, and I on the other end of the spectrum, I love Thor Ragnarok. And the reason the humor for me in that works is because its intention is to be humorous above anything else. And that's why that works. And here the intention is not that.
Yeah.
So whenever you do get that, you're like, what is that? And then the jokes are so awful. We've seen jokes in the more serious fare in the Marvel movies where they work well enough.
It's just so weirdly, like the delivery is always really weird. I don't know if it has to do with the accents or maybe some of the people couldn't pull off the accents well.
It's just the jokes sucked.
The jokes sucked, but we've seen shitty jokes will kind of work. But these, like, the jokes will come out of nowhere and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why was that joke there?
It was definitely not good. Again, it goes with intent. They formatted this movie as something serious, and then there's that. Thor was being subversive. This never was being that. So why the fuck is that joke there? It's like the Doctor Strange shit. Fuck! Why is that joke there? Licked. Anyway, but I really like Doctor Strange, and this one I was like, I could forgive the shitty jokes of Doctor Strange. This one I was like, oh man. I wrote Manape too. P.S. They should call him Manape. It's not racist. That's his fucking name. Anyway, whatever.
He was almost cool.
Any other fucking pros or cons you want to mention that we might have skipped over? I got a fucking call. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I do, and I did hear Al Smith mention this, but and I was under the impression this movie took place before Civil War, and thus criticized him for it. That being said, clearly it doesn't. So where was Cap?
Who cares?
They never mention him. They never mention anything. And then it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It fucking does. And on that note, we get the post-credit sequence with Bucky. Yeah, this was the lamest post-credit sequence yet.
Yeah.
And I'm including that one where the Avengers are just sitting around. At least that was kind of cool because it did everything you didn't expect it to.
Yeah.
It was totally meaningless. This
one
was just like, oh, cool, something we know.
It was kind of like they finished the movie and we're like, oh shit, where's Cap and Bucky?
Yeah.
I'll put that in there just to make it seem like we're hiding them the whole time.
And that was the second post-credit sequence. The first post-credit sequence was also, like, you just said this at the end of the movie. Do you have to reiterate that? In fact, at the end of the movie, meant a lot more because it had deeper ties to the theme of the movie. Whereas you just going in front of the whole world, it's just, one, retreading the same fucking idea. Two, you just took the meaning out of that last scene.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. So that was fucking cool. Also, I hated the Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, this was probably one of our longest Stan Lee cameos, and it was not good.
I was like, what is this? It sucks. So anyway.
So I'm not gonna lie, I started this one off a little more positive because I did.
By the end, you're like,
because look, I do want to mention the stuff I did like, and I did like Killmonger.
Mm-hmm.
This again. The problem is he's not in the movie.
Yeah.
He was so close to being cool. I will never agree with someone who says he's the best MCU villain.
He's definitely not.
I will never agree with anyone who compares him to the Joker, which I heard a lot.
No.
I may be wrong, but I think the director himself said that.
Fuck that shit.
No. Completely no. But he had potential to be cool.
Yes.
He has enough screen... what do you say that?
Charisma?
Yeah, charisma, I guess, to carry the character through, and his themes are interesting. But his plot kind of sucks donkeys, I'll say, because there isn't enough of him to explain the plot. Oh, I mean, you get the plot. It's just lame, I thought. And, again, that would be fine if he was in it a little longer and you grew to like the character, but he's barely in it. He is cool, and once he gets into Wakanda, it's interesting. So, once Killmonger gets into Wakanda, I actually kind of woke up and was kind of interested in the movie, and the rest of it was a little more positive. But the first half is like you said, dull as all shit. I did like Manape. He was cool, despite the fact they don't call him Manape in the movie.
He's Manape.
He's Manape. That last scene was cool. The battle scene was cool. But despite the fact that I left with a positive thought in my head, you're right. This movie does kind of blow the donkey.
Yeah. And there are positives in this for me. Any movie with Forrest Whitaker is cool.
Forrest Whitaker's just playing Forrest Whitaker
because he's Forrest Whitaker. Yeah, he's just Forrest Whitaker now.
He always dies.
But that doesn't mean the movie is great. Positives for me, as aforementioned, was Otuya. She's really fucking cool.
She is cool.
She's badass. Legitimately the only badass in this
I'd rather
movie.
see her movie than...
Yes. Period.
Did you mention Chris Jones?
Yeah, that's a plus.
That's cool.
They do have a little Weekend song in there, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
But anyway, Otuya, Killmonger, like you say, potential to have been great because his motive is so great.
Yeah.
They just didn't flesh out that motive enough.
At all.
He didn't have enough screen time. Is he the greatest Marvel villain? No, not even close. Somebody that had as much screen time as he did was Hela, but you know what? They peppered her throughout the movie versus let's just stick her at the end.
Yeah.
That's the big problem here. They just stuck him at the end, and it was like, I didn't get any of the heft of your meaning and purpose. I get it. I just didn't feel it.
And like,
you know what I'm saying?
I know his plan was to get back to Wakanda and that he was like orchestrating everything to get there. But the way the movie carried it out, it just seemed like he ended up there by accident. And it was just like, all right, I guess I'll do this now.
Yeah, that goes back to the weird, kind of like shoddy fucking structure of this movie. It just goes all over the place, and then you see the through line, but you're like, why do we go everywhere when we could have just gone here? You know? So yeah. But yeah, he despite that, he's positive. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic. So you can't take that away from him. And he did as much as he could with what was available to him. I like the themes. I like that last battle. But going back to the themes, the themes of using the responsibility of power, if you will, using power when you're able to versus holding it back, as Black Panther did. And Killmonger and Black Panther embody both sides of that argument. And like I said earlier, they're in a moral gray area because they kind of both hold the key to the solution.
Yeah.
They're just not doing the other half of it. That's great. They just didn't play it up right.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Marvel has already done this way better with Luke Cage, a black hero in the MCU in Luke Cage Season 1. In the sense that Luke Cage is a man who has powers, who has accepted his responsibility to do something to change the environment around him. And he has villains that are adverse to him in that sense. And that does it 10 times better, 10 million times better than this. So you've already done this theme. The only difference is you threw in mentions to slavery, which made it seem more impactful. But really, you didn't give them the room to flesh the importance of that out.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because that would have been really cool.
Yeah, like Killmonger's final line felt like it was like really important. But they didn't, again, like you said, you didn't flesh it out. So you're just kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
You get it.
You get it,
but
and
you don't
in
feel
the moment, you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty deep, and then you're like, wait a minute, no, it's not.
And here's the thing, and this will be relevant to all the racial hubbub that came around this. This movie had a chance, and I'm sure for a lot of people it did, and that's good. It had a chance to bridge a chasm of relatability with another race. So I'm sure there's a lot of black people that are finally glad that this type of movie exists, and that's cool. I'm happy for them. But the movie shouldn't just be for one crowd. It should be for one crowd and for other crowds to understand that one crowd. And yeah, that last fucking line that Killmonger says should have made that emotional impact. Should have resonated with viewers of another race. But it didn't, because he wasn't given this sufficient screen time to really make that work.
He never really, like you say, they never really explore that side that much. So when he says that, it actually kind of, it's a little impactful at first, but then after a while you're like, but why is he even mentioning that? It's not like he talked about that before, really, or they never really explored that. So what the flip?
Yeah, it's a shame because it's a really shallow treatment of a heavy topic that could have been done in a really cool way. And whatever, it is what it is. So anyway, let's give this a final rating. Where does it stand for you? Again, this rating is in comparison to all the other Marvel Universe movies, not in comparison to Citizen Kane or some shit. What is how do you rate this?
Again, despite coming out,
no explanations, just what do you rate it?
Despite coming out a little positive, I'm gonna go low with this one. I'll definitely not one that I want to watch again. Like a 4. It's definitely below average.
Yeah, this is probably my second least favorite MCU movie. I mean, that's how. Yeah,
just to keep it.
The only thing that I think is shittier than this is Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Again, they're fine. They're not great. Not even close to great to me.
Iron Man 3 sucks.
Oh yeah, well Iron Man 3 does blow donkeys. But this one doesn't blow complete donkeys.
Yeah.
It blows like half a donkey dick.
Yeah.
But that's enough dick for days, so, whatever. So yeah, this is definitely like a 4 for me too. Maybe I'd even go as far as low as 3.5.
Yeah.
Because it's a complete dudder-rooney for me. And yeah, like you, I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I will, to see if my frame of mind changes, but I don't want to watch it again. And that... like Iron Man 3, a part of me wants to watch that again because I can't imagine it that bad the second time because it was fucking shit the first time. I just can't imagine it, but I know it is, so I kind of want to watch it again. But this one I have zero desire to see again. It was just like, in time I will, and then we'll see. But for now, it's going to stay at that 3.54 area.
Yeah, again, 5 is like middle ground, straight up middle ground.
Yeah.
Mine's below average. I have zero interest to watch again. We probably will, just to see if maybe it was just we're in a weird state of mind, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't very
see,
good.
this is why I prompt you to watch like Thor Ragnarok again, because its intentions are something else, and in the wrong state of mind, you could take it to different. Whereas I, despite the Hulk sucking, was like, man, I love this shit. This I can't imagine. I was like, what? What the fuck? You just defied your own point in the same span.
I'll say this: despite shitting on Thor Ragnarok, I do recognize that it is a certain movie that was going for a certain mood, and it was just probably I wasn't in that mood, or probably I was expecting something a little different.
Else, yeah.
This one, it's like, no, I knew what I was expecting,
and still,
and
it's weird.
Yeah,
man. It's weird to feel that about a Marvel movie because they've been pretty consistent up to this point. And it's weird to feel because just about everyone's like, fuck yeah, this movie kicks ass.
Yeah, and even you were like really excited with the first trailer.
Yeah,
Not so much the second one.
Yeah, the second one didn't look that great.
But the first trailer, like, oh man,
yeah,
be badass.
He caused such an impression in Civil War that I was like, yeah, cool. First trailer, yeah, I'm down. Second trailer, I was like, huh.
And I was like, whoa, that city though.
Yeah. And then actually, giving myself time, not having any expectations, zero expectations here, and then still feeling this way is like, huh, well, what do you know? So good. Whatever. Hopefully part 2 will be better.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so, because they're sure as hell going to make it. But anyway.
Ocelot.
So that's the thing. Yeah. But anyway, this has been Ahab and the Goontick talking our massive disappointment, apparently, on Black Panther, Guardian, what the fuck. But anyway.
It's those BBCs I tells you.
Yeah. Hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons. We're out.